And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's another morning edition of the Three Man Weave College Basketball Podcast. That's 7 a.m. Central, 5 a.m. Pacific, 3 a.m. Hawaii time to our proud Hawaiian listeners, which I know there are so many. Welcome. Enjoy your cup of coffee, espresso, Americano, Kai, what have you, as you enjoy some mid-major round ball talk. It is the first week of September. It's time to preview some stuff, like talk actual tangible ball. Kai, how are you? Jim, and how are you? We'll go to Kai first, and then Jim second, and then we'll talk a plethora of hoop today. Pretty geeked about it, actually, guys.
Matt, I'm excited. One of our favorite episodes of the year, the mid-major and
Yeah,
low-major
exactly.
discussion, the extravaganza, if you will. A little banged up at a basketball game last night at 9 p.m. Too late. But boy, I took some body shots, and I'm getting old. I'm getting old. I feel it everywhere, Jim. But I'm going to power through for the podcast.
No, Kai, I think that's more your lingering effects from your pickleball debut
Hmm.
over the weekend.
Couldn't
That's
help.
really what that is. All that
How did
soreness,
that
using
go?
different muscles in your body. That went well
I had
enough, right?
fun. I had fun out there,
Nice.
Matt.
Last time.
That's all that
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah, Matthew, pretty pumped. I think I'm the only one of this pod that cares about the return of the Shield tonight. The
I'm
NFL.
in.
My Packers Friday night.
My Bears.
Today is Thursday as we record, but Friday night. Yeah, that's right. Kai's now a Bear man until they start like 0-6, then he won't be a Bear man anymore. But hey, that's one other thing to be excited about. Fall is coming. We're gonna get some fall weather in Chicago tomorrow after I think an 87-degree day. Matt, preview season on the horizon. I could not be more excited about it.
Yeah, Chicago's kind of fighting on to that summer. A little too hot and toasty here as we get into the September months. I'm ready for the nippy high 50s, cool breeze, autumn leaves, Kyle, all that good stuff. Yeah, the show outline pretty simple. We're gonna do a whip around of all the other 22 leagues here. We'll try and fly through the small low majors, of which I have not completely dove headfirst in, but hopefully we'll get some good nuggets on the teams in which I have. Which I mean, we're about got halfway through some of the preview process with these little guys, so I think we have some good takes, some properly baked takes. Kind of maybe not medium well, but medium rare. I'll call it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but before we get any far, let's thank Joe Pascal, aka Joe Pitti, the best in the college basketball music intro and outro game. Thank you, Joe. Please subscribe to our content. That's on Twitter and Instagram at 3MW_CBB. iTunes, Spotify, Amazon are platforms which you can find us, among others. And if you're watching currently on YouTube, we thank you for your devotion. But if you're not, go back and pop open the old YouTube link. Just click like and subscribe, and then close it out and go about the rest of your day. It'll help us. It'll go miles beyond the effort that it required you to put in for it. So thank you. Um, More importantly, I might even say, please, if you have not already, which I feel like more and more of you listening are like, ah, should I do it? Is today the day I actually go to the Discord and sign up and figure out that whole thing? Yes, today is the day. Please sign up. We are getting into the full conference preview releases, hopefully by mid to later this month. And the chatter has been flying off the wall with our top 50 countdown. We have the top three closing out this weekend, along with the plethora of other stuff. And the weekly AMAs have become a fun tradition. Some big name head coaches, et cetera, et cetera. So join us. If you have any questions, just DM us on Twitter. If you're like, what's happening in this secret, really cool forum with lots of fun people that seem so, just ask us. We'll tell you. But it's a fun community for ball knowers of sorts. We'll get to reviews at the end. Personal corner. Labor Day weekend was phenomenal. Thank you to Shog for joining us on this side of the pond, our dearest friend. And yeah, we hung out and watched college football. It was a very American weekend. It was a properly patriotic weekend, I'd say, Jim.
Yes, absolutely. Ashok, our friend from London, as you referenced, was joking about playing pickleball, watching football, hanging out during the day, just at an outdoor
Too American. Yeah.
cocktail venue. He's like, yeah, all my friends back in England would have said this is ridiculously American, and we were happy to satisfy that stereotype for our guy to come back. It was a football weekend, Matt, but we're here to talk ball now.
As we talked about with the Trilly thing, should we announce some of the guests upcoming? Do we want
Mm.
to? We
Maybe
got some good
coaches.
ones, though.
Coaches are fine.
Yep.
Yeah, announce some coaches.
Jerome Tang,
Huge.
Will Wade, possibly.
Oh yeah.
Huge.
Those have
So
been formally announced, Matthew, by our king and overlord Joey
okay, that's right.
Donovan.
Yeah, they were announced. Okay, that's good. That's public knowledge. But yeah, please join us. It's gonna be awesome. Ask your questions. Coaches will literally respond to your questions directly. Pretty cool thing. That's all we have. Let's round it up.
Let's do it, Matthew. Roots Roundup, news and notes around college basketball. Of course, first, we've got to give a shout out to CBB Analytics, one of our most prized resources as we go through the preview process. Matt, all kinds of stats, nuggets, info that we're able to cite throughout our writing process. It is the best 30,000-foot view of the numbers in college basketball.
It most certainly is, Jim. A vast array of customizable splits for team, player, shot charts, basic shot charts, advanced shot charts, performance against certain teams, calibers of team, in conference, non conference, home, road, quad one, quad two versus quad three, quad four, where your players or the guys who are coming into your team. Are they good against bad dudes or were they actually good against good caliber opponents, right? How did your defense hold up against better caliber offenses, the shot chart, heat maps, that amongst another array of other things. Got some great conference breakdowns. I was actually kind of checking those out as we were getting prepped for today's episode. Again, it's just becoming like a crutch for me in the way that KenPom has, and I think that's why it's such a good resource. A ton of good resources out there in the college basketball analytics sphere, but this one, our proud guy Nick and CP Analytics has been up there with the best. Please sign up today. Promo code WEAVE, WEAVE, get you a $40 off subscription. And for assistant coaches out there, please contact us directly and we will get you set up with the Holy Deluxe Pro tier with behind the scenes. So thank you, Nick.
That's right, Matthew. Okay, fellas, news. We have no major headlines. We didn't have any realignment this week, which was very happy tidings for us. We don't enjoy that. But we do have to talk some coaching news. Now, there wasn't a head coach change, but Memphis, the upheaval and turmoil going on with the Tigers, Rick Stansbury gone from the staff, also two other assistants and support staff member on September 4th, exactly 2 months before the season start, practice looming. And right now, Memphis Tigers, perhaps the preseason favorite in the American, has one assistant listed officially on staff. Quick trivia. Do either of you know who it is?
No, I don't.
Matthew, no.
Don't.
It is the one and only Mike Davis, formerly of
Wow,
1
boy.
and 31 Detroit. It is Penny and Mike Davis putting their heads together. Two coaches that had their sons on their team for quite a while. And that's who is going to make Matthews, I believe, top 20 Tigers in the countdown. Matt,
Yeah.
are you really on board with that still?
No, I mean, no, I think I ranked him top 25. It's like, if we just don't screw up anything with the drama, I think I'll be fine with that. But of course, there's always something. There can't ever be stability with this program. And that's sort of been the thing that's held its back from actually achieving what it should versus underachieving in big games and then not making the tournament effectively.
This is bad news bears. What are you doing, Penny? Can't just can your staff or let them walk in September. That's very bad, Jim, especially for a guy in Penny who I wouldn't call him the best X's and O's guy. I'm sure he's a decent head coach, but it feels like he's relied on talent in the past, and now he doesn't have his staff with him. He'll find some guys quick. Who knows what caliber they'll be, though.
The list of assistants is pretty, like, I mean, he had like the Larry Brown thing, he had the Mike Miller thing.
True.
It's just been a laundry list of like recycled through, and it's just not a good instability with your assistants. I don't think it's a good thing.
Yeah, heavy rumors that perhaps Nolan Smith will be the one joining,
Really?
or one of the ones joining the staff, who was at Louisville and was widely renowned for forcing potentially a coup there against Kenny Payne. That is not stability.
Nolan Smith almost ended up at UCF under Dawkins, and then they didn't hire him, which is like, great job, Donnie Dawkins. So then now Penny can scoop in and take the Nolan Smith scraps, I guess.
Yes, I would also like to mention with the potential turmoil going on in Memphis, they are basically down to last decisions on whether they're going to take Arterio Morris, who is a criminal and has committed a crime against a member of the student body at both schools he has been at so far. So that's not awesome. That feels desperate. Cutting a bunch of staff members right before the season, before practice starts, feels desperate. Memphis received a letter of widespread NCAA violations, Kai. Now, I've kind of been all over Memphis here to this point in this section. I actually don't care about these. What they paid a couple players 2 years before
Yeah,
NIL
who
came
cares? I
along.
agree.
The academic stuff, there's part of the allegations are that classwork was performed by academic advisors and others, non-players. I feel like that happens pretty much everywhere. So I don't get
Yeah.
caught, but I'm not going to fully condemn. Kai, what did you think of
Well,
these?
the academic thing is a big deal. I mean, if you get caught, you're supposed to get punished. Mizzou got caught, got punished. North Carolina, I believe, got punished. That's still a no-no in the NIL days. So I would expect them to be punished. Who knows? This program is not Mizzou, so Mizzou tends to be the only program that gets punished for this type of stuff.
Haha.
The payment stuff, I don't care. Was it related to academics, the payments, or was it just players, just paying players?
I think there's just under the table payments. One of the,
Yeah,
I
who
believe
cares?
Emmanuel Acott got an apartment when he was there,
Whatever.
paid for. But yeah, the advisors stuff that's a little dicier and deserves more punishment. But I also like the fact that I know it happens everywhere. It means it doesn't trouble me as
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
I'm far more troubled by firing your staff 2 months before the season. That's what I'll
As
say.
am I, Jim, as well as trying to take Arturia Morris.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't be that desperate. I believe they have a new athletic director at Memphis, so this could be a do or die year for Mr. Hardaway on the sideline. Keep an eye on that. Just keep an eye on Memphis because they're likely to produce more stories, more fun sound bites. So that team is on our radar. Quick recruiting update: the class of 2025. 4 stars, 4 stars all around. Matthew, point guard Nick Lewis headed to Xavier, shooting guard Matthew Abel to Miami, Florida. Those are both top 75 prospects. And just outside the top 100, small forward Preston Fowler to James Madison. Whoa. Preston
Mm.
Spradlin getting a fellow Preston 4 star recruit to the Sun Belt in his first offseason as a coach. This is pretty impressive, Matthias, and maybe a sign of the rise or continued rise that the Dukes are going to be on.
Yeah, I was trying to make a short list of like the mid-major comments who saw the writing on the wall with the NIL stuff and just in general have been very, very aggressive in boosting their athletic, both football, basketball, and like JMU has to be top of that list. Like I think College of Charleston's up there as well. But yeah, JMU just where they are now in the grand scheme, football, basketball, just good things happening there. Even though they just lost Byington, we love Preston Spradlin. Clearly, getting a freaking 4 star recruit at JMU means things are going pretty well there.
Yeah, I don't know the football situation at High Point, but they have definitely been one of
High
the
Point,
NIL
yep, I had them
kings
as
of the
well.
mid-major
Yes,
world. So, Matthew, yeah, we're almost about to talk about a bunch of mid-majors. Just want to finish up the quick roundup section here. Other random news and notes. Wanted to mention starting to get more and more of these charity exhibitions on the schedule. And Kai, we love these as things we can either overreact to or rebel against the overreactions, whatever comes out of them. Either way, it's a nice tease of basketball before the season actually starts. And the biggest one we've gotten announced now is Kansas heading to Arkansas. Bill Self headed to John Calipari, two coaches that know each other well from the Champions Classic days at Kentucky. This is going to be a great one. It's Kansas versus Arkansas.
Yes, very excited, Jim. I wish it was a real game and not just an exhibition, but I'll take it. Wet our whistle, so to speak, before the season starts. We can watch this game. I'm guessing they're going to charge a fee for it.
Yeah, I think that's typically the case. There's some they get them through a streamer, and hey, the money goes to a good place,
Fair
Kai.
enough.
So write it off on your taxes, charitable donation.
It means it's free, right? If you write it off in your taxes.
That's how it works.
Mhm.
That's how it works.
oh, it's a
Don't
write
check
off.
the details on that. Yep. They just pay you back. They fully reimburse you for anything you write off. It's great. We love it. Matthew, that is it. That is all I got for Roundup. Not a ton of hopping news this week. Just Memphis stirring the pot in their headlines,
Good.
which means we got a lot more time to talk mid majors.
Yes, we do, Jim. Let's start with here's how we kind of broke this down. I said, let's just write down all of the teams that we think can make the tournament as an at-large. I think every year is sort of the theme which we approach the mid-major talks because we're always trying to like say who's going to be that next Wofford of 2018, right? Who's going to break through and be kind of the usurper and not just squeezing as a one bid automatic, but who really has some upside here and some juice to punch with the powers. That pool is dwindling as we go here, but I think that's what I want to kind of. So here's the 30,000 foot view. Here are the big names you need to keep an eye on as you go through bracketology watches throughout the year. and then we're going to go rapid fire across 22 leagues. Basically, how many bids we get in? Probably one. A couple might be two. We'll see. Favorites, dark horses, pet teams, maybe a pet player, or a fun observation or stupid fact that you have observed as you've gone through your preview process, Shelwyn. I know we're not all the way through the entire spectrum, but we're pretty deep into the bowels of this process. So, um, at large hopefuls, I made a list of 12 teams, which is probably too long, but I kind of came with this with like, I think all 12 of these teams could conceivably get there. 10 are probably unlikely. Jim, I see you have a list here in the outline. Talk through your list. I have some discrepancies with you. Let's see what you got.
You can't possibly have discrepancies with the top two, right?
The top two is undisputed.
Okay.
There's never been two more sure locks at like clear favorites to make the tournament in the history of college basketball, as opposed to McNeese State and Grand Canyon, who are operating like not mid-majors at this point. So fair point.
Yeah. If you are trying to pull at-large candidates from this list of other 22 conferences, you have to start with Grand Canyon and McNeese State, both of whom made the tournament last year. Grand Canyon won a game. They bring a ton back. Kai, there's some rumors that potentially Ty and Grant Foster would miss like the first semester because of some academic stuff with him returning to school. That is not in stone, but that is something to keep an eye on. We don't know that for sure. But they not only did they bring a ton back, they added some really legitimate transfers. Jacoby Coles from TCU, and a couple others, Dennis Evans, I believe, from Louisville. So they are just completely loaded. And then McNeese State, they're a high major lineup. It's not like high major stars per se, but it's a bunch of guys that earned minutes in the Power Five and now are somehow in the Southland. They're head and shoulders above the rest.
Yes, insane talent. My worry here is both these teams were amazing last year. Neither one would have gotten an at-large bid in basically any season.
It's a great point.
That's the fact of it. They're both really good. I think they both won 30 games, but McNeese's schedule was terrible. I'm hoping Will Wade plays a decent schedule this year. And even if he does, he still lost to Western Carolina and Louisiana Tech last year, two good teams that he played on the road.
No.
He still lost. So it is very hard to get an at-large bid at this level. However, McNeese and Grand Canyon are both kind of in the zeitgeist now. They're known, right? People know about them. I think that helps from a certain intangible perspective for the committee. I don't think either. Yeah, that'll be fun. One of these teams will get it. I don't think both will get an at-large.
Where was GCU on the wins above bubble? Does that pop in your head? I'm looking at their resume last year. They lost 4 games, 3 of which were on the road against the top 2 teams in the conference.
They were 34th, Matthew.
Okay. God, I just think that's an at-large resume, but your point stands, Kai. And McNeese obviously has the terrible conference schedule where you have no margin for error whatsoever, which is totally understandable. So yeah, I mean, I think gun to my head, one of these two teams will be an at-large this year. I think there's probably a risk that one maybe loses a stupid game they shouldn't, and they have to get in with the conference tournament, to qualify. But I think one of these two will be an at-large this season. I feel pretty good about that.
All right, I'll be Mr. Poo-Poo and say none of them.
Yeah.
Neither of them.
Yeah.
Okay. But,
I think the odds would say that none is the favorite.
Yeah, I think of the 3 outcomes, you're probably right. Yeah. So sorry for being a mid-major guy over here. God,
how dare you? Mid-major episode. How dare you? The other ones I listed, Matt, and you can tell me who I missed, who I should have had on there. UC Irvine, High Point, Bradley, Vermont, Louisiana Tech, Princeton. Now, I think you can make an argument for 1 or 2 Sunbelt schools. I'm curious if that's who else you have in the vicinity here.
Yeah, I do. I have Arkansas State. I think that was the obvious one that really has, again, I frame this more from an upside ceiling thing where I do think they have a pretty crazy high ceiling. Obviously, it is more of a reach as relative to a UC Irvine, who's like always top 100, top 70. Vermont's always in that mix. Princeton seems like they've kind of been, hitting doubles in like that top 75-ish range where you get a few things to break right, get a couple of big ones in the non-con, you're suddenly in a good position. Arkansas State was the one team I was like, Jim, come on.
Upside is there, but man, I don't think it's like anywhere near the normal outcome for them.
No,
it's not. Miles better than last year when they weren't anywhere near that level? That's my question.
Yeah,
I might like James Madison more than Arkansas State.
The Sun Belt's very parity ridden in general, so we can look at that.
Indeed, yes. Matthew. High Point, I like. Boy, the High Point. Again, I don't know their schedule, but running the table is not outside the realm of possibilities for this team. And if you do that, you'll probably make the tournament and lose in the conference finals, whatever you want to do. So they are ridiculously talented in the Big South.
I have Bradley as well, Jim. So yeah, I guess like the Valley is probably that league that's
It's down.
the best of the mid majors theoretically, even though they were ahead of the WCC last year in Ken Palm's rankings. I think we all agree WCC has sort of been outlawed of mid major consideration because of the schools they have there. But the Valley's down. That was a big takeaway for me, Jim. I was like, there's always like a Valley team that you feel pretty good about, at least being within a earshot of being an at large if things go right. But like I feel like I was just picking the best of the smartest fifth grader type of thing with Bradley. I mean, it's a good roster, but it's like relative to other rosters we've seen in years past with the Valley at the top of the totem pole, it didn't excite me. The league doesn't excite me overall.
Yeah, I mean, how many teams in the Valley can lose an NBA player like Bradley did with Malavi Leons and then become an at-large team? That's really difficult.
Yeah.
Valley also lost Darian DeVries, arguably the best coach in the league as he heads out to West Virginia. Matt, pretty good segue to a couple little facts I wanted to give on returning minutes across the board in the mid-major leagues. Kai, I will give you two guesses to guess the top two conferences in returning minutes and think about why they would return a lot of minutes. I'm gonna give you that little hint. Matt, you're allowed to guess as well. Can you figure out the top two teams in returning minutes across the entire sport, both power conferences and mid majors included? Think with your brains. That's my hint. Brains.
Ivy League school.
Yes. Ivy is the top or the second. They're number 2 in average
Patriot.
returning minutes.
Patriot.
Matthew, correct. Patriot number 1. Only 2 conferences have over 55% of their minutes returning on average per Bart Torvik. The Ivy's at 65 and the Patriots at 72. A ton of minutes back in the Patriot, not as robbed by transfers. And the Ivy would return even more if those schools allowed grad transfers back. All those guys had to leave. They're not even leaving out of their own volition. It's because they don't allow grad students to return. On the other end of the spectrum, Matthew, bottom 3, Missouri Valley, as you mentioned, they got kind of ravaged this offseason. The SWAC, which could have some inaccuracies because none of those schools like to post a roster before 3 days before the season, but they're way down there and not relevant to this episode, but the American. Way down there as well. They are actually the bottom school, 31% of their minutes returning. That, Matt, just kind of underscores what you're saying about the Valley. It got really gutted compared to the talented teams that it had last year, and they're kind of going to have to build from within this year.
Jim, where did the America East fall in that? I was curious. I saw that was like a league that was one of the odd low majors that was much better last season, like as a league top to bottom, which they don't really have. I don't think the academia prestige as the Patriot or Ivy, but sort of that Northeast corridor of hoop lovers, and maybe there's an affinity for that part of the country if you're from there or something. But I thought that was interesting.
They're 6th, Matthew. Okay. So I'll give the just quick top 6 with them. Patriot, Ivy, head and shoulders above. The NEC, the Summit, and Conference USA
NEC
are the other 3 schools or the other 3 conferences above 50% in terms of returning minutes. So they have a lot back, and America East just on the tail of that top 5.
Hi, any other potential at-larges for you?
No. It's I don't want to call it a weaker crop, but I think I think because, like, for instance, the Valley, a stronger mid-major league, is a little bit down. I think it kind of waters down the possibilities of an at-large team, barring a crazy Wofford run like we had, and that could definitely happen with McNeese or Grand Canyon. But again, it is going to be schedule-based, or it's going to be you basically run the table.
Yeah.
Possibilities, but it's going to be really tough. And we know there's a lot of really good power teams this year. So it might be a season where we get no mid-major at-larges, at least from these 22 leagues.
I have 2 crazy Hail Marys, and we'll go to the first league here. I had Milwaukee and Ohio in my, the craziest of crazy utopias. There's a world in which we're talking about the Panthers and the Bobcats.
Are either of those teams the best in their league?
I'm a sucker for Milwaukee this year. I'll give you that. But
I like them too, but
I don't know what kind of mental gymnastics I have to do to get them to at large.
Upside, Jim.
In my head.
You can always sell the upside.
All right.
Let's go to the Valley.
Yeah.
From the peak to the valley, did the valley last year, Jim. Kick us off on the whip around, league to league.
I'm gonna let Kai kick us
Oh,
off.
Kai's valley guy this year. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm the Valley guy. I love the Valley.
You've been valley guy too. You're a multi-year valley guy. That's my mistake. That's my
I
mistake.
actually did write all this league, so this is the one I'm actually prepared for. The others I have not written yet. I've written 50 previews, guys. I'm a little behind. The main, I don't know if we want to do like main storylines, but the main story is 5 coaches are gone in this league, which is crazy. And most of them are due to getting better jobs elsewhere. Drake, Indiana State. I guess just those two. Yeah, Schertz is gone from Indiana State. They were awesome last year. Missouri State rehired Konzo Martin. That's fun. SIU hired Scott Nagy from Wright State. And then Rob Eson at UIC. So Yaklich is gone, and former UAB coach / Jared Haas assistant Eson is now in the league.
Never let it be said that Chicago doesn't recycle, Kai.
They recycle. Yes, there you go. Yeah, Matt said it. It's down. The favorite's Bradley. They kept their coach. They got a lot back, 3 starters, and they added Zeke Montgomery back, so like a little boomerang transfer. They're the favorite. I think it's kind of hands down. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a 2-3 loss season for them. The dark horses, though, Matt, is everybody. Literally, outside of maybe the Valpo, Evansville teams of the world, maybe UIC, everyone can kind of be a dark horse. I think Drake is probably the pick with McCollum. He's won like 6 national championships, the D2 level. It's crazy. And the D2 guys he's bringing in are going to be good.
Yeah, this league bums me
You
out.
stumped him, Kai.
This league bums me out, Kai. That's my hot take on the Valley. The rosters kind of bum me out as like Lance Thrum.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of, we don't know who's going to be good, but I bet there's going to be guys that step up, and you know, UNI still has a system in place, and that's really it because you lose Drake and Indiana State's infrastructure. Yeah. It is kind of a weird transition league. It sucks that the Valley's a little bit down this year.
That's my runner-up pick, Kai.
Oh, go ahead, Jim.
UNI. I think this is kind of Jacobson's been sort of dealing with the aftermath of losing Austin Fife to long COVID for a couple of years, and again, he lost a little bit of transfer talent this year. But Matt, I think UNI Purple Panthers finally rise back up in that top 2 or 3, which is where I kind of think they belong with Jacobson in charge.
I agree. They just burned me too many times last year. That team was wildly inconsistent and probably had more talent top to bottom than this team. So maybe this version's better, but I don't know. I'm soured on the Purple Panthers, Jim. But I salute you for staying the course with Mr. Ben.
Jacobson, most tenured coach in the league. I think this is his 19th season at the helm.
That's crazy.
Fun fact.
To the SoCon.
Yeah, I think that's all I got there.
Yeah, SoCon. Let's do it. Who's SoConning?
Honestly, I think I am as well, Matthew. I think I am also the SoCon. I have not written this preview yet. I had kind of a hard time picking like a favorite. I went with 3 teams, and you guys can call me crazy. I put Samford up there. Rylan Jones somehow is still in college. Makes no sense. They added a Vanderbilt and a Mississippi State transfer, and they got Holloway from Tulane. Pretty good roster. Bucky McMillan, Buckyball. Made the tournament last year, almost beat Kansas. Chattanooga, I put up there. One of the best backcourts in the league.
I'm on board, Kai.
Yes, okay, good. Honor Huff and Bonham, and they had Bash Whelan. I'm a Bellarmine sucker. Bash Whelan can play, according to his old coach Davenport. And then Furman, I think, always has to get a nod. Bob Ritchie, what he's built there. They have to have kind of some next up guys. They lost a lot of talent, but they still have a pretty good core returning. Those are my favorites. And then, again, Matt, dark horses, several teams. Wofford's got everyone back. Mercer's got Ryan Ritter coming in. Fantastic coach.
Yep.
And Greensboro is always there under Mike Jones. So a little bit of a wide open league, I would say.
Yeah, the Wofford. I was trying to write down a list of teams with like, whoa, they brought everybody back? ? Like Northern Arizona is a weird team. Wofford was like a whoa type. Like so, that was the one note I had. I agree with the Chattanooga. The most fun team in the league. The team I will be tuning into ESPN Plus the most. I think that was my only other note on this conference, Jim.
Yeah, I like what Chattanooga did with the D2 transfers they brought in, including the wonderfully named Frank Champion.
Frank Champion.
I mean, you can't, if you're looking for champion DNA, they literally got it. How's that for a terrible pun? And then Kai, I think the other one a lot of people would mention is East Tennessee State, just given what they brought in to complement Kamari Peterson and Jaden Seymour, their 2 best players from last year. Kurt Lewis, former National Player of the Year at the junior college level, kind of crashed out at Missouri, but a nice addition at this level. He was awesome at Eastern Kentucky early in his career. And then Johnny Bugs. Kai, we go bug nuts for guys
Wow.
transferring from North Texas. We got to give him some love as well. I think Brooke Savage, former Steve Forbes assistant at ETSU, could get them back up into competition along with all the teams that you mentioned. I'm glad you put Samford first, though. I think Bucky's kind of earned that, and that team is loaded again.
Yeah, is Roosevelt Wheeler Louisville guy?
Yes, formerly of Louisville. Yes.
Wow, look at that, man. Not that he played
This
there, but
summer in the Discord and in general, we've talked way too much about Louisville transfers and their new
yeah,
destinations.
yeah,
Like it's, I think it's actually been a good thing how bad they were. Like they've gotten more spotlight than they would have normally gotten.
My last shout, my guy Trey Fort got banged up last year at
yeah.
Mississippi State after a hot start early. I think he's going to light it up for Samford.
I do too. He could lead the league in scoring. That's how much he could light it up.
Yes, good
Yes.
guy.
And Rylan Jones,
Again,
stay healthy.
not sure how he's in college still, but
What's
congratulations.
what's the concussion? What's the concussion watch guy from
Billy, is it Billy Ray?
Yeah,
Something like that.
is that a mean joke? I feel like we should put Jones on the same. Like, I just feel bad for the young man.
Yeah.
Stay healthy. Stay healthy.
The Ivy Gym. This is you, correct?
Yes, the Ivy. I have written almost half this league, actually over half this league. Very fun one to write, as mentioned at the top. So many guys back, so you have a lot of consistent systems. Now, the one that is debatable if it's going to be consistent is Cornell, with Dan Earl headed to the Coastal and William and Mary, but they just internally promoted Jean Jacques. I actually don't know the
I
pronunciation
think
there,
it's
but
Jock. I
internal
don't know though.
promotion.
I think it's Jock. I don't know. I should know this.
Do you guys remember Jock from college, by the way?
No.
He was
No.
a key four-man on the Sweet 16 team that beat Wisconsin.
Hmm.
His senior year was the only year he really played, but he knocked down a ton of threes. Seems like he's going to keep up that same style for Cornell, but the favorites are still Princeton, and then a little gap, and then Yale. Princeton's got the two best players in the league, Xavier Lee, Caden Pierce. They lost a couple grad transfers to the portal, but they are still loaded with talent. Yale's got the dean of coaches in this league. James Jones, now number 2 all time in Ivy wins, behind only Pete Carrill. Pretty good name. And Bez Imbank, their stud point guard, is back, kind of the extension of the coach. Then after that, you've kind of got the Brown team that got hot at the end of last year and almost stole the bid. Cornell, maybe. But it feels like the top two's league. One other name to watch, Keno Lilly of Brown, kind of explosive score, almost averaged 20 a game. He can really fill it up. Matthew, any other names or teams jump out at you in the Ivy?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think all the you can make a case for all these teams because they all have so many guys coming back. But Brown, with how good Brown was down the stretch last year, like almost was the spoiler of the entire Ivy Madness thing. Turned on an absolute rocket ship late. Certainly could be in the dark horse discussion.
Yeah, they won
Um,
7 of their final 8, and it was after a starting lineup change. So you can actually point to something tangible that says, oh, this version was better.
And in Columbia, I mean, they were kind of a fun breakthrough team last year too. Like, whoa, holy cow, the Lions are competitive, and they got everybody back, including our boy Geronimo Rubio de la Rosa, who's awesome. So yeah, that was two fun league to watch. The rich get richer, I guess.
Yeah,
the rich stay rich.
I did write down Columbia. I don't think they're actually going to compete for
Yeah,
like maybe they'll get like top 4 maybe, but I don't know. It's Princeton Yale, like Jim said. Princeton's going to rock once again. This team just
that fourth spot's usually wide
amazing.
open. That's why the madness is cool because usually you can be around 500 and sneak in that fourth spot and give yourself a chance to go dancing.
Does Harvard get back? 4 guys back with over 25 minutes per game. Tommy
And they're all
Amaker's
talented.
back.
Yeah, they're all talented. Yep.
Maybe,
Yep.
but they lose their best offensive player, Mac,
Yeah.
their best defensive player, Ajigbo, and then the connector, Akpara. So that one's debatable. Like, fun Columbia fact is, I think last year everyone got ahead of themselves because they brought everyone back.
Yeah.
They were 3rd in the country in minutes continuity. But now second. Now they bring everybody back again. And instead of sophomore, junior, it's a junior, senior team. I think this is kind of maybe the post-hype Columbia actually ascends now that they're older. That's it, Matthew. That's our Ivy summary.
Let's get to the whack.
That's me
Who
again.
is?
Congratulations,
I think that's
Kai.
Kai.
First
Matt,
of
are
all,
you writing any leagues this year? What the hell?
Yeah, I have no
The crappy
leagues in
ones.
I have all the high major ones. So like the AAC Mountain West will just be a lot of Matt
Yep.
discussion on that one.
First, we wave goodbye to Stephen F. Austin, who decided to go back to the Southland for whatever reason. That's a shame. It's good for the Southland. Congratulations to the Southland, but they're gone. Grand Canyon, we talked about. They're going to be a top 50 team in the country potentially this season with Grant Foster, with Ray Harrison back. Best duo in this league by a mile. Jim mentioned Jacoby Coles coming in from TCU. Hands down best team. Dark horses, there are a few. I called out UT Arlington. KT Turner, a little feisty as head coach there, has a solid transfer class. Seattle's always good, so Seattle's going to be a factor, in my opinion. And CalBap, did they figure something out? The backcourt is looking mighty good. I think they have at least 3 starters back, could be 4 partial ones. So that's a team I'm looking, and I believe they're also eligible this season for the tournament. I got to double check that one.
The Lances.
It's either year 4 or year 5. So, that gives a little extra motivation. But I called out those teams. I don't see a lot of the other ones really competing. A couple teams are kind of down. Tarleton lost like literally everybody. They're gutted, which is a shame and kind of weird. And it kind of juxtaposed their football program. But this is where we are at Billy Gillespie. So
it's almost like no one wanted Billy Gillespie to come back. It's almost like that's
almost like that's the case. Yes.
Yeah, lost the roster and the assistant who stepped into his stead, right, Matthew?
Yep, and was awesome. Yeah, so I don't really know the full. It's like one of the least covered schools. It's impossible to find any information. No coach does any interviews. So I don't know. It's a black box. Who knows?
That's my overview of the WAC.
So my 2 cents are, it's Grand Canyon and everybody else. UT Arlington, like KT Turner was probably my most impressed by this coach in the league last year, other than Jones at Tarleton.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they got crushed too. I thought they keep some more of those guys. I guess not. So,
but they have some intrigue.
Yes,
in the transfer realm.
Yeah, very much a turned over roster, but 2 top 40 junior college players, a bunch of grad transfers that have been productive. I think Arlington is a worthy second choice there. You mentioned CalBap. I think Dominique Daniels is one of the most important players in the country to his team.
Mm-hmm.
He missed a couple games last year and they fell off a cliff, so that's something to keep an eye on. Abilene Christian has stereotypically been awesome in non-conference because they just pressure like crazy and teams just aren't really used to this just like savagery of basketball that they roll out there. They lost a ton also though, so perhaps it's going to take them a little bit to get going. That's mostly it. Yeah, the league is generally down around Grand Canyon, who just continues to rise, which is the opposite of what the Grand Canyon is, Kai.
I know. Hey, one new coach, by the way, Khalil Fennell, takes over at Rio Grande. This school is impossible to win at. It's just not even fair.
I love the Valley, my Vaqueros, but God, it's a tough place to win basketball games at. Just a tough place.
Will they ever make the tournament? I don't know.
I hope they do.
I don't know.
USA, Matthew. It's you finally.
Yes. Speaking of parity, also just kind of a good league. It's funny because it's like it used to be way too big and like I couldn't keep up with it. Now it's at least geographically it's still very disparate, but at least like it's a smaller crop of teams to look at. I think Louisiana Tech is the presumed favorite. I think Jim mentioned them in the onset. But the big story for me is like 3 very proud programs last year kind of stunk. New Mexico State, obviously having to clean house after the disaster that was the year before, with all the shenanigans going on in the shooting and but so they're kind of, I think, back on track with Hoot in year 2. Middle Tennessee was bad, lost their starting point guard best player. They were awesome the year before. They're probably going to bounce back. And then Liberty was not as awesome as I think we remember. Maybe the bar's just so high now that like we look at last year as a quote unquote underachievement, but I think the Flames could bounce back as well. So I think it's Louisiana Tech and Sam Houston at the top. Western Kentucky maybe in that mix as well, with Hank Plona coming in to replace Steve Lutz, who moved on to OK State. And then some parity in the middle. I don't mean to go down that rabbit hole, but Jack State, Kennesaw State, FIU, not terrible, feisty, plucky. You know how it goes, Kai. So thoughts?
Boy, I would probably take Liberty as my favorite in this league. Honestly, they were really good in the non-con before kind of falling off last year. Richie McKay is still there. They have Porter, Matheny, Cleveland back, so 3 starters, and they add Isaiah Enan from Minnesota, who he didn't play healthy, a ton, but I hope he stays healthy. But he's really good when he's healthy, and he's a former 4-star guy. This Talon Peter guy from D2 could be good. I have not dove into him yet, and Josh Smith from Stetson, I think he's also been kind of hurt. He was their best player a couple of years ago. So
that's a good point.
There's a lot of talent on this roster. I kind of lean towards them bouncing back and getting back to the top 100 even.
Great
Yeah,
points. The one thing that McKay mentioned is like we were tiny last year. Like remember we watched the Charlotte game and Charlotte looked like they were
yes.
giants compared to midgets, even
Yes.
though they still eviscerated Charlotte offensively. McKay, you could see it last season. They were just small and they got bigger, so I think that's going to maybe help them too.
Yeah, they were small everywhere. It's like, okay, we're starting 5'9" and
Yeah,
5'10" at
right.
guard, but we're also starting 6'7", 6'6" at forward. And now they've got actual size inside and maybe a little bit more at guard. Louisiana Tech's got the best player. Daniel Bacho is a potential
Yes.
pro, dominant shot blocker. He dunks everything when I watch, and I'm like, wow, they should get him more touches. But the guard play at Louisiana Tech leaves a little bit to be desired in terms of just getting the ball to their best players. So that's something to be concerned with. Western Kentucky brought a ton back
Mhm.
despite what's leaving. So that was impressive. The internal hire with Plona, I think a lot of guys seem to like him. He won big at Indian Hills. We'll see. We'll see how that one goes. And then yeah, Matt, Sam Houston State kind of getting just the side mention, but they returned a ton too from a team that won the regular season last year.
Yep.
Chris Mudge in his debut season after taking over for Hooten, his boss now over at New Mexico State, their conference rivals. But Mudge did a fantastic job, and they are 10 deep, so they should be right back in it too.
I put Sam Houston on my mid-major program rocket ships. Like football, they've made that jump and I think done very well. And I think basketball with the hoot and run, and I think Mudge is going to be just as good. Maybe not as close. I think Sharp knows what he's doing, or Mudge knows what he's doing for sure.
Joe Golding for you, top five-ish coaches I want to have a lot of beers with.
Agree.
He's awesome. Every time I talk to him for the Almanac was just
he's
a
great.
treat.
They've been on the doorstep too. That's a program that I think everyone wants to do well. Like the El Paso proper area is a basketball crazed part of this country.
NMSU bounce back this season, Matthew.
I think yeah, for sure. The question is how big is the bounce back?
So
is it enough to bounce above the others?
Sonny
Yeah.
Jackson, my D2 king. Yep.
Yeah, they could be really, really good.
Ooh, Jim,
Hooten
player
too.
to watch in this league. I had him written down actually. But
Good.
Simeon Cottle for Kennesaw is actually I texted Vicini is like, why is this guy not getting looks at like fringe NBA stuff? He's awesome. He's amazing. Plays in like an Alabama system. Super skilled. Hopefully they win enough games. We'll see. That's my name. Simeon Cottle. Write it down. Next,
Big West.
Big West.
Yes, sir. We
Yeah,
mentioned UC Irvine as one of the top kind of potential at large teams. I don't think they will get there, but Russell Turner, I think the stat is they've been in the top 150 at KenPom for like 10 straight years or 9 of the last 12. Just kind of unheard of at a mid-major. They continue to roll. Kai Bent Laketon is back in the paint for them. He was on the portal, flirted with our Mizzou Tigers actually for a little bit, but I think he has a monster year now that he's a little healthier, less competition for minutes from other tall guys in that system, and they have plenty of guards. But the rest of the University of California system is really good too. You see Riverside, you see Santa Barbara loaded up in the portal this offseason. You see San Diego was great last year and brought back some key pieces, very well coached, another team that's finally, I believe, eligible for the NCAA tournament. A lot of excitement here with the Big West. It was an awesome league to watch last year. You get a lot of kind of pinball type games, teams that love to get up and down the court. Matthew, any teams or players jump out to you? One little side story, Marcus Adams Jr., who's been at like 9 different schools between committing to, I believe, Gonzaga, and then he was at BYU. Former top 50 recruit is at Cal State Northridge. So he could have a giant impact if he actually gets on the court and gets his head straight. But Matt, your thoughts on the Big West?
I love this league. It's like a top 5 favorite league. And they were really down in the COVID thing. I think the California schools were just really hit hard by the harder restrictions. Like you can see they mostly stunk during the 2021 year. And I think they've kind of had like this slingshot effect because all these schools have really been good. And the continuity has been pretty impressive, even with a perennial power like UCSB having kind of a down year last year. Like the fact that you're seeing doubles from UC San Diego and UC Riverside and Hawaii has been really freaking good. And Davis under less is always good. And Northridge now has an actual coach, not like a dinosaur. And Trent Johnson, no offense, Trent Johnson. Like it's just a good league now. It's a deep league. Cal Poly got John Smith out of there. Hopefully their new guy, Mike DeGeorge, is decent. Who the hell knows? And the runners are always fun. As much as I hate watching a runner basketball, Kai and Rod Barnes and the boys, shoot every mid range and take 5 or 32 seconds to shoot it. Maybe they bounce back this year. Who knows? Fun league though.
You didn't mention Fullerton, but I don't think they're fun. The Roadrunners. Santa Barbara bounces back this year. This talent's ridiculous. We say it kind of every year, but Swinson and Turner, Stetson and San Diego transfers. It's a really good backcourt. Kenny Poto from Wichita. Colin Smith's a high major player. Max Morrell started at Stanford a couple of years ago. He's a big guy. He's not fantastic, but he's a Stanford starter. This team is loaded with talent. And Matt, I thought you were going to kind of wax poetically more about Cal Poly. Yeah, they brought in the D2 coach, Colorado Mesa, and he brought in a bunch of his guys. I don't say they're going to compete for the league, but I bet they're going to be a lot better than last year. And
No,
they still have Jared Hyder too.
They should be way better. I just don't know anything about those dudes, the Colorado Mesa guys, but it was a really good D2 team. It kind of gives me the same vibes as the Andy Newman hire last year, dominant D2 coach, but he didn't bring any. He actually got a lot of D1 transfers, and they were awesome right away. I don't know if that's going to translate as quickly to returns for Poly. I mean, Riverside has my two favorite guards in the league, so that's who I'm most excited about with Moses and Harrington. So
Barrington Hargress.
Sorry,
you kind of crossed up his two names there, but yeah, no, that backcourt is fun to watch. They can really get buckets in a hurry, and they were young, so I think there's a lot of runway for them to take off. I think the D2 route with bringing a bunch of players is a great way to raise the floor for Poly. Like it's just, I think it's gonna be hard for them to suck as bad as they did last year and have sucked for a while. My one nervousness about UC Santa Barbara, and that talent is loaded, as Kai mentioned. I think a couple of years back, we had somebody DM us that system takes a little while to learn. And Pasternak is better with guys that have been in it for a while. So it might not be a just throw talent at the wall type of team, but they might have enough talent that it doesn't matter. So I think Santa Barbara could challenge UC Irvine. But what do we tell ourselves, guys? We're just going to bet on Russell Turner and Irvine every time. Why not?
Correct.
Yep. That's the Big West, Matthew. Sun Belt.
Sun Belt. This is officially my favorite mid-major conference now. I've just fully embraced that. I feel like I followed it the closest last year, like not even by intention, just sort of by happenstance. It's a big league, 14 teams, a lot of very good teams, but it's not going to be as good as last year. That's what kind of like a lot of talent was drained. You saw teams like James Madison like shoot up to unprecedented, levels. So there's a lot of middling decent teams, kind of like the middle of the CUSA. It's like, yeah, feisty good, but like, that's why I think Arkansas State and I think Troy is the other sort of like obvious dark horse with who they bring back and how good Scott Cross has been. The brothers Rigsby, baby, Miles and Marcus, Connerway coming back. I think that's going to be a team that can legitimately compete at the top of the totem pole, as bad of a program as Troy is historically. And then, James Madison, Jim, you mentioned with Preston Spradlin, they lose a lot. They bring in a lot of good players, though. With what he did at Morehead the last few years, there's no reason to think he's not going to be in the mix. But App State lost a ton. Louisiana lost a ton. Southern Miss is, I think, the funnest team because they have Andre Curbelo and Tally Alvarez, and they're trying to, run that whole song and dance back again. I hope everyone stays healthy and it comes to fruition because the Ladner thing 2 years ago was really fun. Last year, not as much. And then Marshall Kai, Dan D'Antoni, our fallen hero, has been shoved aside. Well, he's still alive, just not coaching anymore.
Right. They didn't like that hire, right? Cornelius Jackson, or was
it was named last year. He was the coach in waiting. D'Antoni wanted to come back for a year. The administration said, "Nah, we're ready to kind of turn the page now." So there's a little bit of awkwardness, but I think there is continuity per se.
This might be the most wide open league in the country. Maybe
it does.
I wrote down like 9 teams that could maybe win this. I think Arkansas State's the favorite, Matt. You mentioned them,
yes,
but South Alabama, I think, is right there. Decent quarterback, always bringing talent. And then the other 7 teams, it's App State's always there, Troy, Louisiana, Texas State's always there. Yeah, James Madison, Jim, I think Spradlin's going to be amazing, and he has tons of talent.
Yeah, James Madison is my pick here.
Yeah.
That's who I'll go with. I mean, Mark Freeman didn't play for Morehead State last year. He won Player of the Year in that conference in 22-23, and they still won the league without him. Now he's healthy and followed his coach. I think that tells you some things about Spradlin and who he is as a leader for that guy to stick with him despite the injured year. Noah Williams, is he going to be good? Remember that guy scoring 40 in a Pac-12 game?
Yeah.
He's a very erratic kind of player, but the talent level could be overwhelming in this conference. Brought in a couple other guys from power conferences, power leagues. Also went the D2 route. Like, it's just a whole bunch of talent from different areas, and Spradlin's shown he can mash that all together. So big fan of that one. And also want to mention Old Dominion. Jeff Jones had to retire due to the health concerns. They went with the interim coach for most of last year. Now they hired Mike Jones, a second Mike Jones in the head
Ooh,
coaching ranks
I
to
know.
join the UNC Greensboro Mike Jones. Curious what goes on there. Sean Dewar Gordon joining Old
yeah.
Dominion. He has played for three schools in each season. The coach got fired at the end of it. I don't think it'll be a fourth because Mike Jones won't go one and done, but an interesting little stigma following Mr. Dewar Gordon.
And Jim, your
Apparently,
guy. Sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
no, they hired Jeff Jones back as an advisor role, but he's
Ooh,
advising all programs. So he's like a athletic director, advisor czar, so to
Good.
speak. So
Love that.
hope to see him on the sidelines at some point.
I was going to add Jim's guy Justin Gray is now the Coastal Carolina coach. Got a little shift there from Cliff Ellis. Wow.
Yes. When he was at Western Carolina, the first year interview was he was in like a restaurant for the Almanac, and I could barely hear him and it was awful. And then the next year was like one of the best. Just a guy that really adapted his approach. Western Carolina improved. Coastal could do the same, although I think that roster's a little spotty. I think it's going to take a bit.
Yeah, they took Majak from Mizzou. So red flag.
Yuck.
And then final shout to Monroe and Keith Richard. Actually brought back a lot of guys, but it's still kind of Monroe. Like Monroe was on the fringe of going FCS, I think, a year ago. I feel like they're sort of the gaps widening between them and these other schools.
They're going to be
with
really
more
bad
funds.
again.
Think so?
Opinion. Yep.
We'll see.
Don't bet on that team. That's all I'm saying. Don't bet on them.
All right, next we go to the Big South.
That's me. Yay. This league is pretty solid, I would say. Drew Pember's gone from Asheville. That's a shame. He was legit. High Point. This is the team that everyone is going to be talking about. They are nationally good. Top 100 for sure. I would say it could be 75. Almost everyone's back. Plus, they added Bobby Pettiford from Kansas to replace Duke Miles. They added a couple other high major transfers. Chase Johnson was an all-conference guy in the A-Sun at Stetson / Florida Gulf Coast. He played for both. Yeah, this team rocks. They're the hands down the favorites.
Fucking DeMaurian Williams was
DeMaurian
a
Williams.
14-point-a-game scorer
Yes.
at Gardner-Webb, a team that was like top 2 in this league 2 years ago before he went and then applied his trade at Texas Tech. And now he's back and he's a second or third stringer for this team. Like that team is laughably loaded.
Stupid loaded. Could run the table in this conference. I wrote down Winthrop as kind of a fringe. Like if
Winthrop, rock the hell, baby.
If High Point was in this league, they'd probably be the favorites. 4 starters are back. All of them double-digit scorers. That's a lot of talent. And dark horses, Radford, always good. Asheville, again, always in the mix. Very solid backcourt despite the Pember loss. But this really is High Point's league this season. And a really fun team to watch if you haven't watched. Alan Huss has done a great job at this program in very short time.
I think Smashville's my number 2, Kai. I like them. Just bringing back big-time shooting wings. I love Justin Wright, adding him as a point guard. He's a productive player in the WCC. And you bring him to the Big South. I think he can continue that rise. And then Longwood. Mr. Aldrich did a really nice job in the portal. A couple guys from outside the D2 or outside the Division I ranks. Actually, just one. KJ McClurg used to be at New Hampshire, and he was laughably efficient at the D2 level for California, Pennsylvania. That team was like, they have been a great D2 team for years and years and years. And he scored 23 a game on 53% shooting, 42% from 3. He's going to be fantastic for them. We know he's a great coach. Longwood going to be right in the mix too, Matthias.
Yeah, it's just crazy that this is a top 10 mid-major league. Like, I think it's like, wow, Big South this early. It's like, no, every team's good, and there's been some turnover, but mostly they've kind of kept their chips intact. So
yeah, I will say 3 coaches. Marty Richter takes over for Dickerson at USC Upstate. They're not going to be very good again this season.
Charleston Southern.
That's dude. Son Nemley is Charleston Southern's official head coach now. You like Son Nemley, Matt?
I do. His roster his roster's pretty good. They got to get Kelly back this year. I love Kelly.
And then
love Kelly.
Jeremy Luther.
Bringing back guys from that team. Ugh. I think I want turnover from that team.
Jeremy Luther takes over at Gardner Webb. Tim Kraft was there for a while, and I think he's a really good coach. I would be hesitant on Webb this year, although Luther was under Kraft, so it's a promotion internally. But again, it's High Point. It's the Panthers. Go watch their games.
The CAA, Jimbo, that's you, right? Colonial.
The coastal, Matthew.
Coastal.
You fell into the trap. They've been trying to lay that for people, and you took the cheese. The favorites at the top here, it's a little bit of a question mark. I think Towson and Charleston are probably the 2 you would separate. Towson bring back 7 of their top 8 scorers from a team that was feisty and solid. They fit the profile for a Pat Scary team, attack the glass, play extremely physical. Now, the one guy they lost was their paint enforcer. So that's a tough, hole to fill. But I think they did an okay job with it. Makai Kelly, I'm not looking at the name right now. The rising sophomore defensive stud, I think is going to be a big piece for them. Charleston, it's Chris Mack. Welcome back, Chris Mack. Welcome back to coaching. Got a ton of talent via the portal, kept a couple key names despite Pat Kelsey going to Louisville. They're right at the top there. And then you got well-coached teams with shakier rosters. UNC Wilmington, Hofstra, they lost a ton. And I'm putting William and Mary as the dark horse team here.
Yeah.
They return a bunch from a team that just never played well after Dane Fisher's first year. But there's a bunch of former power conference guys on this team. They brought in a couple sniper transfers to play Brian Earl's system that really elevated Cornell to its best echelon ever in the Ivy. I'm excited to watch what William and Mary can do, Matt, even in year one. And I always get ahead of myself with year one coaches, but I think William and Mary, the tribe, could ascend.
Right. I mean, you're right. It's just sort of like the weird system year one. But I think Earl's such an outlier. I'm overriding all of that nonsense. I'll throw Stony Brook in there, Jim, as kind of a fun, good coach team that is decently talented. Got 2 top 50 JUCO guys, a couple of key pieces back. They were a thorn in the side of this league we saw last year down the stretch. Almost ruined the whole Charleston magic again, but alas. Yeah, another kind of parody, very flattish league it feels like to me this year.
Really flat.
I do think Charleston, Jim, would be my pick. With CJ Berzovic coming back from the portal is huge for them.
Yeah, it's huge. If he's healthy, huge. Yeah.
But Darren Boyd rocks for Lipscomb. He's a transfer coming in. I know AJ Smith was pretty good for a bad Citadel team, but I'm with Jim. William and Mary, man. They're going to be fun. Brian Earl, it's a whole new world. And he kept everybody from last year. Not that the team was any good. It wasn't. But huge, keeping all those guys. And they're kind of old now. Definitely a program raiser, Earl.
The one to watch on Boyd, I think he tore his ACL in February. Oh, no. So he might not be ready for the start of the season. I want to say they're aiming for league play for him.
It's a good note.
Yeah, just to keep an eye on that one. Yeah, I had a hard time picking the order of this league. I've written almost the whole thing, just waiting on Monmouth, a couple roster things there. But yeah, there's very flat ratings, what I've got with this league. So you could end up with some teams sneaking up the totem pole.
All right, on the horizon, we have the Horizon, my league. Actually not pillaged all that bad by the portal. Like there are some teams with some, real continuity here. I mentioned Milwaukee as a team with, I think, really crazy high upside, but we've seen kind of last year, especially, there is some downside with how, frenetic that system is. And you're sort of just kind of throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. I do think they are the favorite, though. I think Northern Kentucky is up there. I think Purdue Fort Wayne, pieces they brought back. The team we all fell in love with when they beat DePaul last year, only to find out that DePaul was actually worse than most Horizon teams. And then Wright State brings back a lot of key pieces, but they are changing regimes, hiring internally, replacing Scott Nagy with Sargent. Cleveland State's in there. To me, there's not like a very clear front runner. I mean, Oakland, you have to throw in Mr. Campy and the boys. They got enough pieces coming back here.
I thought you weren't going to say Oakland, and I was going to be sure.
I almost didn't, but it is a flat league again. And that's not to be a broken record here, but I really struggled to find separation here. I don't know. Kai and Jim, thoughts on this league when you guys looked at the rosters? Milwaukee, again, is kind of my favorite team here, but we'll see.
No, I agree. It's flat. I did write down Milwaukee, Purdue, Fort Wayne, and Northern Kentucky as the favorites. NKU's got Sam Vincent back, a guy that was hurt. How good are the D2 guys? I think they got 2 D2 guys coming in the backcourt, so that's
key. And they've had good success with D2 guy. Horn has, so that could be good. Yep.
But with Milwaukee, I love Bart Lundy. Tamus Folks and AJ McKee are great additions. Louisiana and Queens, respectively. I think they're going to not miss a beat, losing, BJ Freeman and whoever
Freeman
else.
was so good, though. Year. I know that's my concern.
He was very awesome. Good. Oakland, the JUCO guys. And I'm just going to shout out IU Indy, formerly IUPUI. I'm not saying this team's going to be good, but I really like their new head coach. The way, the momentum on Twitter is rising. You never heard from this school ever on Twitter before, and now it's kind of getting momentum. I hope they do well. Jim, you know who's going to do really well, though? Your boy, Doug Gottlieb at Green Bay.
I thought both of you weren't gonna say a thing about him, and I was gonna get to make that claim.
I'm
Oh
kidding. He's
man.
not going to do well.
Yeah,
Oh,
I have very big concerns about his like coaching acumen, his paying attention to the job, et cetera. The roster's good though. Like he did a nice job getting some talent. Jeremiah Johnson is like way too good of a freshman for this league. I think should be picked for freshman of the year, Matthew, if you're having
yeah.
trouble trying to
Yeah.
decide on that
No,
one.
I already got him penciled in there.
But yeah, I think over 5 coaches in this league changed hands.
Wow.
Some internal promotions, which obviously is a big part of it. But IU Indies, just like Cal Poly, the D2 floor raising move of a coach plus a bunch of his nucleus from a really successful team. Faulkner takes over for Calhoun at Youngstown. Going to stay on the portal train there, but it doesn't feel like the same quality of portal class that Calhoun was getting over his time. It parody, man. I've never loved the Horizon, but Milwaukee
I
is
know, I like it
definitely
better
my
than you do.
pick. I think the talent there. Can McKeeby as good as Freeman was?
Yeah,
That familiarity
he's
with
really
London?
good.
I don't know. Yeah.
Can we circle back to Mike Davis, who is gone at Detroit, and Mark Montgomery is back in coaching. He was at NIU.
For a long time.
Long
Yeah.
time.
And
He
honestly
was.
kind of decent there, given
Looking
what
back,
NIU's been
yes.
before and after. Yeah.
Yes.
He brought in 2 Eastern Michigan transfers. His whole thing is like, we're going to recruit Detroit. We're all Detroit. His whole staff's like Detroit guys. Like, I think they're trying to, like, they know it's a tough place to win. I think they're trying to kind of create like a uniqueness about it in like a more of a Michigan Detroit affinity. So we'll see if that works. But
Reminder in NKU, really bad in non-conference as they figure out how to play their zone,
Yes.
and then they get a lot better in league play.
every
Yep.
year. Got to write that one
did that hold
down.
true last year too?
Yeah.
Did that hold up? I guess it did last year. Yeah.
It mostly did last year. Yep.
Yeah, 2 new guards there. We'll see what happens.
Ooh, from the chat from Stephen Ryan, Doug Gottlieb wins the Horizon tourney but doesn't finish top 4 in the league. That would be chaos.
I am more bullish than both of you on his coaching pedigree and his coaching acumen.
But why?
Let's say you can't be bullish on his pedigree. He's never
pedigree. Yeah, his pedigree is
Never
his
coached.
non-existent. He coached a bunch of
So-
AAU. It's not like he's like the first time he picked up a clipboard. I think he knows basketball.
And I loved Sonny Wicks. You can't. That's such a
that's a
downgrade.
better point.
It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
how good Wicks was. That's a great point.
Yeah.
And Noah Reynolds is probably a power conference
bit.
player. That was yeah.
He is a
He
power
is.
conference player.
Yeah,
TC
now he
is
is officially. Yes.
Factually.
All right, to the America East, a conference I highlighted in our intro. Yeah, 11th. It's a good league last year, guys.
Yeah, somehow this is me. I need to find my notes really quick here. The answer is Vermont. It's just
Yes.
like
That's
Yes.
next.
it's like yes, Vermont. It's their league as long as John Becker is there, and also they're good again. 4 starters pretty much are back this season, and they added Shai Odom from Howard, who is very very good. So Vermont is like
it's really good.
I think Vermont's ahead above each team, head and shoulders. UMass Lowell's always the sexy team. Can they break through? 3
I
starters
did that
back.
last year. I
Guess
did
what?
for that last year. I'm not doing it this
They're
year.
probably not going to break through. It's Vermont's league. Bryant, though, deserves a shout as well. Phil Martelli Jr. is now the coach there. He took over for Grasso, that whole weird thing. They have 2 of the most talented players in the league, Rafael Pinzone and Errol Timberlake. Those 2 guys probably shouldn't be in this conference. However, it's Vermont's league, Jim.
Vermont's awesome. My God, I can't believe how much they
So
brought
good.
back. Matt, your boy, Ayo Foley, the incredible defender. I know we have some internal debates on like how much to put stock into Evan Mia rankings, but he was like a top 25 defender in the entire sport last year per his DBPR. Like the team was ridiculous when he was on the floor. Shamir Bogues was in and out with injuries. They still end up winning the league. They're loaded again. It's ridiculous. Last year was like prime opportunity for someone to take it. They had lost almost everything from the season before, and still John Becker reigns atop, and is going to continue to do so. Matthew, I don't think it's that close.
They won the league
No,
by
it's-
4 games last year.
Yeah, it's just
It's insane.
Becker's just a step ahead. Like I think he saw the rising tide of athletes into the league. UMass Lowell, Bryant. I mean, God, Maine looked not like a Maine team last year. Binghamton had a couple of dudes. You want to call them Albany, not well coached, but had some athlete. Like, and so now his teams don't look as TJ Sorensen and Vermont anymore. They actually have like some real athletes. They have adapted and they've sort of put themselves in position to combat their foes, and they are just smarter and better coached. And they
A
always
lot
win,
of people were asking if John Becker could win without a member of the Duncan family, and he did.
Yeah.
He had like 10 straight years of a guy from the
10 years
Duncan
of a
family,
Duncan.
and last year, no Duncans, another conference title.
So fun fact: Vermont 15-1 in the league last year, won the league by 4 games. No top 5 Ken Pom player of the year in the America East Conference, which
That's
is
crazy.
almost impossible, I think. But they're just so balanced. It doesn't matter who they play. It's plug and play at Vermont.
Big Sky is next. This is where I'm starting to get a little bit dicey on my prep here. But I did mention I wanted to bring up NAU, one of those teams that
You always
has sort
like.
of a shocking amount of continuity. Who I always like, Shane Burker and the boys. I think he's kind of on the hot seat this year, so I'm glad he has everyone coming back. But overall, the loss of David Riley at Eastern Washington replaced with Dan Monson, which will be kind of a fun story, but not really because I don't think they'll be very good, honestly. It's a league in transition. You have some upstart young coaches with kind of starting to build their programs. Top is starting to kind of come down, resetting. I think Montana is like the perennial favorite, but I don't feel like it's that big of a slam dunk. Like you could argue they might even be worse than they were last season. They were playing pretty good down the stretch. Money Williams,
Yeah.
fun name, player to watch. If he's back healthy, I think he's like player of the year in this league and probably lifts Montana to the title. Any other teams that are worth mentioning? I guess I like a lot of young coaches, Logie,
Yeah.
Pribble, but do they have enough talent to really, step up? That's kind of the question.
I was going to mention Montana State. They've won the league 3 years in a row, conference tournament at least. Logie's great, and they have some guys back. 2 JUCO guys too. Logie's from a JUCO school, I believe, and then Max Agbankpalo, former 4-star recruit. I want to say
USC, right?
Yep. Utah State. Now he's at Montana State. I also put Montana as the favorite, Matt, with Williams and Whitney back. But yes, NAU dark horse with 5 starters back, intriguing. And Weber State, Jim, I don't think is really going anywhere despite Dylan Jones leaving.
Yeah, Weber. I'm sorry. Thank you.
They're probably going to be right up there.
I don't think Weber's very good.
Oh, no.
I have not been impressed by the Duft tenure. That's what I'm going to say. I think Randy Ray leaving, they have sunk to a different tier. And now you take away an NBA player, and I'm concerned about them. Would agree Montana's the favorite. I think the top of this league is nowhere near as good as it's been in some recent seasons. I have some concerns. Matt, you mentioned everybody back at NAU. Just wanted to throw this fact in there. Only 2 teams in the entire country return more than 90% of their minutes. One is Navy, and nobody leaves because they're at 91%. NAU returns 98% of their minutes. They are by far, head and shoulders, the most continuous team. Kai, I believe you coined that term last offseason. Big fan of that. But yeah, it's a shaky league. I don't like the Big Sky this season. I'll just say that. That's my nice way of putting it.
I would agree with that.
I'm not as excited to write the previews as I have in years past. I'm with you on that.
NAU is a top blank team, Matt, nationally. Burkhart's best team is 213. Excuse me, just 2
maybe
years ago.
200. They're not better than like top 150.
No.
Yeah, top 200.
I was saying maybe 200. Maybe.
I don't think they're even getting hyped. I think it's just like oh shit, they have everyone back. It's just so weird to see Jim's roster sheet with like a neatly uncolored grid in there. It's very nice. It's refreshing, except for Monty Bowser, the weird Cal transfer that ruins it. All right, Summit. Let's stay in the same geographical domain, sort of. A more fun league, I think.
It's more fun, but I would say the top is
good.
Watered down the same way that the Big Sky was. I don't think you can emphatically say any team is a big favorite here. So by default, South Dakota State, sort of. Oscar Clough, Washington State transfer, is probably going to have a dominant season for them. They've got maybe the rising perimeter star in Kalen Gary. But St. Thomas, one to watch. I just love what Johnny Tower has done there, Kai, as he's elevated the athleticism level in that program. Oral Roberts got Isaac McBride back out of the portal.
How?
I have no idea. Nobody wanted a 20-point a game scorer. He could have done what David Coit did and sat on the Kansas bench, and he started at Kansas. Remember, Isaac McBride, originally a Kansas recruit. And been like the reserve for a really good team, chose not to. He's back at Oral Roberts, so they're a threat. UMKC has a ton back. North Dakota State's always kind of in the mix, but it is a watered down top of the league for sure, which could open up a potential dark horse to make a run. Do you see anybody that could potentially do that, Kai, or are you sticking with the big dogs?
Yeah, I wrote this league last 2 years. So I have a couple notes here. Yeah, South Dakota State, by far the favorite in my opinion. Gary, you mentioned, he's the next guy up, and Clough is going to be maybe the best player in this league.
Yeah, I think him or McBride is the
Yeah,
preseason player.
right. McBride, of course. Yeah, and Matthew Morse. I keep hyping him up every single year. He's gonna have to play way more this season, so he's gonna be at least solid. Yeah, I know you don't like him, Jim from
Jim thinks
Wisconsin.
he stinks.
I don't know if Russell Springman's a good coach at Oral Roberts. He really disappointed me last year. That team should have been good, and they were bad, even with McBride. So TBD on them. Jim mentioned St. Thomas. They lurk. Matt's team is Kansas City. Anderson Kopp is back. I think he got hurt again last season, but he is back once again.
Healthy.
Jamar Brown was incredible last year, and Menzies always brings in these JUCO guys. I bet they finish top 4. North Dakota State is just so boring now. I'm tired of North Dakota State, Matthew. They lost Skunberg. The rest of the backcourt's back. Who cares? It's been a bad team for years, the last couple of years, at least in the non-con.
Yeah, they'll underachieve, I think, at North Dakota State will. But I think they'll be a top 4 team in the league because it's just not a great league, and they have they're just a better program than the average program in the league. So they kind of have an unfair advantage, I guess, just of all the success they've had. This is the Ruse League, guy. I can't believe we're not like banging the gavel with conviction that they win this league, especially like kind of a down transitionary year. If Copp's back, you kidding me? They actually play defense. No one in this league actually plays defense. I like the Ruse here. Ruse won this league.
Wow.
Have fun with them. I would say Omaha underachieved last year. Kind of a bummer, Kyle. Our potential dark horse.
A little bit. Yeah, I mean, for them, though, it was a pretty good year. Like for the program. Yeah.
Having Fiddler and still going under 500 in this league, outside the top 250 Ken Pound, that should be your year where you're peaking, and they didn't really peak.
You know who did North Dakota was really good last year for their program in the league. I just think they might have lost a little bit too much this offseason. But Paul Sather, he impressed me last season at least. Finally had continuity.
Yeah, he typically got smashed by the portal. I think they had like the freshman of the year 2 or 3 straight years,
right.
And the guy left every time.
Nacho.
So, Nacho did it. Bruns did it. Went to a rival. So that's it for the summit. Matthew, back to you.
The MAC, my MAC, tough year last year for the MAC, and we've heard Todd Kowalski talk about it in the Discord AMA. We've heard other coaches discuss it. It's just it needs to kind of regather its luster. They've lost a lot of talent, especially the guard position over the years. So it does feel, again, my enthusiasm to the league is overall a little bit watered down from usual. Toledo's down a little bit this season, but still should be awesome because they're Toledo. Kent State's roster isn't holy crap awesome, but it's Kent State. You rely on the teams that are always there at the top of the totem pole until proven otherwise. Akron in that mix, even though their roster isn't great, they lost a ton. But my pick's Ohio because of those perennial program pillars. They lost the least, and I think they have some real upside with AJ Brown coming back fully healthy. So,
yeah, I'm kind of coin flipping between Ohio and Toledo, Matthew. I think there's still enough there with Toledo, what they return. I mean, your boy, Sonny Wilson,
maybe
had a solid freshman year, but now he really ascends into stardom. Javon Simmons was actually the better freshman for them, surprisingly. They filled in some blanks with a couple of guys within the conference. Isaiah Adams from Buffalo, Seth Hubbard from Western Michigan. I think that at least keeps the floor solid in the role player realm. I liked Bowling Green last year. They didn't quite get to the level I wanted them to. But yeah, this feels like a usual suspects league.
Yeah.
As I go through it, there isn't somebody from outside of that normal group that I see ascending and challenging the Kent State, Toledo, Ohio, Akron order of things.
Yep, Toledo, Akron, Ohio. Those are my favorites. Kent State's the dark horse per usual. Yeah, Ohio, five guys back over 23 minutes per game. That's intriguing, Matt. Does Todd K finally break through? I hope he does. I'm rooting for the guy. It might be another regular season title and no conference title. Akron, per usual at the top. However, it's all transfers this time. It's not a lot of continuity for John Gross.
Yeah, how about Eastern Michigan with all their internal turmoil and losing a lot? Now they bring in 2 guys from DePaul. Do you really want 2 guys from last year's DePaul team?
Power four team, Jim.
yeah. I guess that's like Kai. That's we were talking in the Discord. Former 5-star, like that's that's how you frame that player presentation. Is look at these former power conference players. Mm-hmm. Don't mind that they were 300th in Ken Palm worse than we were last year.
All right, the MAAC.
That's me, the MAC. I'm writing this team this year. Hey, welcome. Sacred Heart and Merrimack joined the league. That's fun. At least Merrimack is. No offense to Sacred Heart. Quinnipiac is the hands down favorite in my opinion. Four starters are back. They should be the best team. Have they ever made the tournament? I don't think they have. If not, this is the year they break through. This is the year they make it. You have to be aware of Iona. Tobin Anderson has all transfers, but he is a fantastic coach. And I'm going to say it, Merrimack is going to be in the mix as well, coming over from the NEC. I think Joe Gallo is awesome. I think his zone is going to confound his new opponents up there in the MAC, and he will finish top 4 in this conference.
I got my guy ABC, Adam Bud Clark.
Yeah, Bud.
Monster freshman last year. He probably could have been player of the year in the conference if he didn't have Durkak on his team, and he was deferring to him, who's now a Big Ten player. Yeah, that zone is going to confuse everybody. It's just like we call it the concrete mixer. It's hard to figure out, hard to score on. Now they got a new league. I think teams will run into problems with that. Shout out to Tobin Anderson turning over that entire roster. I think that could be interesting. Last year they had some issue. Greg Gordon quit halfway through the year or halfway through the conference season. That didn't help. Siena's interesting. Jerry McNamara turning them into Syracuse 2-3. Just from a style perspective,
for
they're
sure.
interesting.
For sure.
I don't think they'll be good, to be very clear. I don't think they'll be good, but stylistically fun to have that. And just hat tip to Tom Pecora. I thought that was a weird hire at Quinnipiac, and he and his team were fantastic in his debut season. So man, I got to respect that.
Yeah, both of the Pecora and Casey at Fairfield, sort of kind of retreads, and they were both really good. So I think we kind of have to, maybe there's some to league familiarity.
Do we have to respect Jim Christian then?
Yes, we do.
Retread hire?
Because
Yeah.
Jim Christian's a good coach.
Well, I was going to say, what are we doing at Canisius? We hire Reggie Witherspoon, who's been around forever. And now we go Jim Christian, who's been around forever. We need some fresh blood in Canisius. Strange hire, in my opinion.
Greg Paulus or Jerry McNamara. Choose your ACC player, now coach, fighter.
Give me Paulus in
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say landslide, but I feel good about it.
I think Paulus is a
as
good
well.
coach. I think Paulus has done a pretty solid job in Niagara, given some pretty shitty circumstances. I will say that. That's it. That's all I have.
They turn over the entire roster too. I believe all 13 scholarship players.
This is
are
the problem
new
with
at Niagara.
well-coached teams, I think, that kind of play decently higher above where they should, is they get more eyeballs on them and pillaged by the portal. They should have kept some of those guys, but I think they actually had some pretty good players last year.
Matt, Quinnipiac or Iona? Who are you picking?
I go Iona. I got Tobin.
Wow.
I got Tobin to the bounce back. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Talent's but I think I like Tobin. I think Tobin knows what he's doing.
I'll stick with Quinny, but Iona's right there.
Yeah, Quinny by a couple games.
Mm.
They won-
Mr. Vermont,
they won
respect the
last year,
institution, gonna go against
Quinnipiac won
although
it last
Iona's
year.
not been as clearly
Iona
dominant.
Humbled last year, yeah.
Quinnipiac won the league last year. 5 games above Iona.
Yeah, Iona stunk. I mean, Tobin hated the team, like the eternal optimist. He even sounded sour grapes half the time. So, all right, A-Sun?
A-Sun.
Yes, that's me again. Welcome to West Georgia, one of the 2 new D1 teams, along with Mercyhurst in the NEC. This one was pretty easy to pick the favorite, surprisingly. This is a league that's always kind of parity-ridden. It's Lipscomb this season. They are the team to beat. Ognacevic is back. He missed almost the entire year last year, I think the entire year. And he was preseason first team / player of the year type of guy last year. And Lipscomb was still good. Joe Anderson's back. Pruitt's back. Once again, Acuff added some smart transfers from the portal. This team is great. And there's a bunch of dark horses everywhere else. Florida Gulf Coast, they've started out awesome the past 2 years in the non-con, then somehow failed in the conference. They have a lot of talent as usual. EKU somehow is Devontae Blanton back. He's arguably the best player in this league. I don't really understand how he's still playing. Jacksonville made a huge run in last year's tournament. Their backcourt's pretty legit. And then North Alabama is one I'll give a shout to. Jakari Lane is a stud. They got Daniel Ortiz back, who's a boomerang transfer, who was really good in this league a few years ago. And Susi, a very good player. So their backcourt is really, really good. They might be on the verge of breaking through, Jim.
I'll be the king of Queens, Kai.
Queens.
I think Queens could have a solid year here. It was kind of odd last year with the Gavin Rain saga. Will he play? Will he not play? He never did play.
Yeah.
Perhaps now they know who's in the fold. I think Colomario from Fresno is a nice add for this conference. And Asjan Anderson, the Ranger College JUCO transfer, super productive at a really good program. I think you pair him with some of the returners there. I think they could be top four-ish, we'll say.
Hmm.
But agree with you. Lipscomb is the pick to win. Ignacevic is just so good. They've got enough around him returning. Acuff is a fantastic coach. Everybody loves him. It's like even when he was a D2 coach, coaches would go to his
Yeah.
like clinics and try to learn from him. So your favorite coach's favorite coach.
One
That's Lenny Acuff.
one of the fathers of the motion offense, I believe, is his claim to fame.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Gulf Coast has got the talent. They kind of bummed me out last year. They almost beat IU at Indiana and then didn't really have it in the ASUN season. Stetson's kind of weird. The Andrew Taylor saga, former
Yeah.
Marshall and Mississippi State guy that's like on campus but not announced on the roster yet.
Mm.
Very, very strange. But yeah, Matt, I think EKU is probably number two behind the favorite Lipscomb.
Yeah, I just think Acuff is underrated. Like they had a ton of injuries last year and they were awesome. They've just been really good. Like it's just a really good program, really good coach. You bet on that usually. I love the Tony Puyol reincarnation of the backcourt, boomerang with Lang and Ortiz. That was fun 2 years ago. I hope that we see the same magic. That's a good program, good coach. I like the Lions. That's kind of my dark horse pick to maybe surprise.
OVC.
The OVC. God, this is where I'm starting to get in the dark, and the OVC has been a little bit more of a kind of a crapshoot. And now without the dominant force that is Moorhead, now they certainly could still be that under John Maddox, internal hire.
Not
Right?
internal. He was
No,
at Murray
not
State
internal.
for a year. I
Murray
think he
State for
was
a
under
year.
Spradlin and then yeah.
That's right. There was that weird interruption year last year. But they lose a ton of dudes, and the rest of the league is just like completely up for snatch grabs. I'm an SIU Edwardsville guy with our boy Brian Baroni and Rayshawn Taylor, Desmond Polk running it back in their, I think, 6 years, maybe. But yeah, I mean, this league is just it's really starting to dwindle. I mean, I do like Little Rock a little bit. Little Rock's got some talent, as they always do. They actually were good last year with that talent. Maybe they'll be good again. Outside of that, nothing for me, Jim. Nothing exciting to mention.
Yeah, I think you can make the argument Little Rock's got the most talent and the best player.
Yep.
KK Robinson.
Yeah.
And the fact that they actually did put it together some last year is encouraging. It's not a blind leap of faith on talent. It's, this team was actually well run. It got along. They've got LSU transfer Wani Wilkinson, Jonathan Lawson's at Creighton and Memphis. There's real juice on that roster. I want to cheer for Rayshon Taylor because he was a double ACL guy, and it's just, tough to see that happen to a guy, and that's why he's got that 6th year and he's back with Baroni. But yeah, Kai, this is wide open. It feels a little like the year when we're 2 years ago and we're like, wow, the NEC suddenly stinks. The OVC might be worse than like MEAC and SWAC this year to me.
Yeah, it's not great. For me, Little Rock's the favorite. Too much talent, ridiculous talent. I think they're maybe a forehead above the league. But SIUE, Matt, I agree, because in addition to Taylor, two guys coming in from Barton, the JUCO national title winners. I think those are two really good ads for a school like SIUE. They will probably be in the mix.
Next up, Southland.
We've kind of said some negativity towards leagues. This league is upswing.
Yes.
I don't know if they've gotten like NIL money or what, but there's a lot of really good transfers in this conference. McNeese is still the clear favorite. They have way more talent than everybody else. It is a team loaded with P5 talent, as we mentioned. But with the return of SFA, with some influx of talent at Nichols and Incarnate Word, and Corpus Christi's kind of like the continuity darling of this league. I think there's actually some challengers. I don't think McNeese is going to go undefeated, and I think that's part of why the at-large train might not leave the station. But man, Matthew, Will Wade has built an incredible powerhouse there, and they're probably your best bet to win the league of any team in the country. I'm saying that tentatively,
Vermont.
But fair. Vermont's right there too.
Yeah. I like that SFA's in this league. I just think it gives McNeese there's one more game, two more games on McNeese's conference calendar that like I will tune into, as opposed to like, okay, McNeese went 11-1 in the non-con. I'll check back in 2.5 months and see if they have any losses, and we'll talk about their at-large thing. So that's good for the league at large. I know it's a downgrade in theory, but I think Jim's point's like, I think the tectonic plates of the conference order are shifting. Maybe it was, I think they're going to save a shit ton of money not having to fly out to freaking Utah all the time to play WAC games. And maybe basketball wise, this league is coming, as especially as the WAC is going to start to dissolve pretty soon here.
Yeah, we talked about McNeese at nauseum. Ridiculous. Sincere Parker is great. Copeland from Syracuse and Brandon Murray to add like two of the
Brandon
best
Murray may
players
not
coming
start
back.
for this team. Is that correct?
They have Christian
The guy-
Shoemate, who is one of the best players in the league last year, coming back, and Javon Garcia. It's a dumb amount of talent. They're the favorites. I do think SFA Jim maybe pops them one game, like you said. They have a lot of talent. You mentioned Nichols. Yeah, came out of kind of nowhere last year. Impressive debut by Sadler. I thought they'd be kind of bad with him being the new head coach, he was like 29 last season.
I don't even think he's 29 yet.
Yeah,
he's so young.
Three double-digit scorers are back. And Incarnate Word, are we going to get seduced by this team once again? It feels like every year we overrate them. Two Ball State transfers could both be all Southland. And Sean Robinson is still among the more talented players in this league, despite his production so far in college.
Yeah, I'm a little seduced by Incarnate Word too, Matthew. Don't worry. Don't feel bad about that. UIW, they've got Jalen Anderson. He's the guy from Ball State. Potential player of the year in this conference if McNeese didn't exist. And maybe he will with all the numbers and the balance that McNeese has. But hey, Cardinals to Cardinals, Ball State to Incarnate Word. Those guys are familiar with the colors they'll be wearing. I think this league will be much more entertaining to watch than it has been in recent years. And that's why I overdrafted it in our conference preview draft.
All right, we got the last four low majors. MEAC, Patriot, SWAC, NEC. Jim, rapid fire. MEAC, that's you. What you got on this one?
Somehow I ended up writing three of these four. So this is my world.
Wow, you did get three of these bottom four.
Come on down to my low major world. MEAC, a lot of schools with no rosters up yet. Maryland Eastern Shore hired a coach in like July. They're still putting players on the roster. That's a complete mess. But it's going to be Norfolk, Howard, or North Carolina Central. Those are the three best programs by far in this conference. They've got great coaches. South Carolina State returns a ton, so maybe they could do something. Delaware State, super well coached, but lost a ton. A couple fun names. Po' Boy King from North Carolina Central. Yep. Just the name is great, but he's also like their best player, power guard.
He's a good player.
Yes. Howard's got Marcus Dockery and Bryce Harris back. Really, really good duo. You're not picking anybody besides somebody out of that top three.
Yeah, Howard, NC Central are my two, Jim. Yeah, I think Howard's number one. Norfolk, Brian Moore, he was, I believe, sixth man of the year in the Valley. He's a very good player from Murray State. And then Morgan State has everyone back. So Morgan State, decently talented team. But yeah, it's Howard or NC Central, Matthew, or maybe Norfolk.
I like Howard.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Good.
To the SWAC we go. I have not looked.
Don't you skip my Patriot. Don't you skip my Patriot.
Oh, sorry, Patriot.
Don't you
I don't have any good Patriot thoughts. Go, Jim. Patriot.
Respect the continuity.
Patriot.
Again, the only league over 70% of their total minutes back. Colgate's the favorite, but it's not Colgate. It's not the usual Colgate. Their kind of manufacturing line of conference players of the year got disrupted when Braden Smith transferred to Gonzaga. He's going to sit out there. So this is probably still the best team in the league, but nowhere near the upper echelon of Colgate teams. I think Lehigh and American are nipping at their heels. Lehigh's young guard core. Man, I like that Lehigh squad a lot. Austin Benini's maybe the best player in the league from Navy.
Jalen Rucker. Stop it. Jalen Rucker.
He's literally my next bullet point, Matthew. How dare you jump in? Jalen Rucker sat out last year. He is back at Army to lead the charge for the ground troops. And then Justin Vanderbond, just a big curiosity in this league because he's a 7-foot shot blocker and like no one has that in the Patriot. So Lafayette, Justin Vanderbond, their defense will probably be the best in the league simply because of him.
Yeah, there's 7 teams after Colgate that could beat number 2, I think. Maybe I'll go American Matt Rogers, really good player for American. But yeah, every single one of these teams, including BU, who I'm always seduced by, have a lot back this season. We talked about the Patriot bringing a lot of guys back overall.
Jim, I just hope you list all 20 Army names when you write the preview and all 16 Navy names on the roster. That's important.
I believe Army has 28 players on the official roster. So, yeah, that's
where do they sit on the bench? I never actually watched like where they're positioned.
It might be double. It might be 2 rows.
Got two double decker.
They have kind of a JV varsity thing going on. They do,
Yes,
seriously.
I think they
that.
actually do. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. I think that's real. Yeah.
Holy Cross has some really good young talent, sophomore class, and Josh Leffler, the new coach at Loyola Maryland, is one to watch. I think maybe not immediately with the first year because he's still kind of working with players recruited for a Princeton offense, but I think he's going to be on the rise over the next couple seasons.
The Illich brothers up front. That's right. Yeah, I like that one, Jim. It's a good mention.
Now
Um,
you can talk SWAC, Matthew.
SWAC. I'm not even excited to talk. I only really want to talk about Jackson State, who got the worst news ever last year when Deshaun Ruffin was announced down for the season, and I think he was kind of the projected player of the year. I mean, top McDonald's, or was he a top 50 recruit coming out when he went to Ole Miss?
Yep,
So
top
for him
50.
to go back to Jackson is sort of a homecoming to play for Mo Williams, who's coaching in sort of a homecoming. Great storylines there, vibes. I think they break through this year if he's healthy and the other guys stay through, but I have not gone through the other rosters in depth. I will note that Johnny Jones reached out to me yesterday asking to talk ball. So
that's
get
nice.
some good nuggets in the Discord preview series from the SWACs, hopefully.
Yeah, I think Jackson's my favorite for now. Again, the roster situation for these leagues is tough, like in terms of like we don't know. Texas Southern always in it. Grambling, perimeter is solid.
Love Grambling.
Yes,
Love Grambling.
Grambling transfers, and then Alcorn. They always seem good under Bussy.
Yeah, right.
A lot of transfers.
Prairie View, Alcorn, always the
Yeah. Prairie View's been a little bit of a mess.
A little down
lately. Last couple of years.
Alcorn's taken the Prairie View mojo. Bussy just took the mojo from his former boss. And it's like, yeah, right.
Texas Southern doesn't have quite their holy god level of talent that I think has really helped elevate them. And I'm just going to warn everybody: do not get seduced by any look at the Bethune-Cookman roster. It will disappoint you.
I was looking at it and I was like, stop it. Quit it. You're not.
Yeah. Just like slap yourself on the wrist. Yeah.
They're going to be bottom 50 still.
Yes.
Where are we in the
NEC?
NEC,
Matthew, I'll close it out with the NEC. Goodbye to Merrimack and Sacred Heart. Welcome to Chicago State into a conference. And Mercyhurst, as Kai mentioned in the ASUN section, the other new Division I team. Really odd dynamic here. Chicago State's head coach, Jared Gillian, who we really kind of worshipped as a guy who elevated a horrific program, left the bench there for Chicago State to be an assistant within this conference at LIU. I think that could be a nice bump for LIU, who does have some solid talent under Rod Strickland, former NBA player there. But the favorite's still probably Wagner, team that won the conference tournament last year, despite only having 7 healthy scholarship players. Yeah. They get a bunch of health reinforcements back, but Central Connecticut State will be in the mix. I do think LIU will be there, maybe Lemoyne, but it's a parity-driven league. I don't think there's like a top 270 team in the country. That's probably where I land, Matt. They're all not very good.
Yeah, NEC is weird for me. I guess I'll go Wagner by default, right?
Yeah, I went with Wagner. They lost their top 3 guys, but they have a lot of experience back, and like a lot of guys back that were injured, and now they're getting them back. So it's like a big like health turn for Wagner.
So last year, the only team in the top 260 of Ken Pom was Merrimack. They're gone. Central Connecticut State was 262nd. The year before, the only team in the top 300 was Fairleigh Dickinson, and that was pretty much because they beat Purdue in the NCAA tournament. Yeah. They were 312th entering the NCAA tournament. So this league has been down. And so I don't feel bad saying there's no top 270 team here.
Central Connecticut's really old. That's a good shout, Jim. And Lemoyne has Robbie Carmody. Robbie Carmody is number 1 still in school, and 2 is at Lemoyne now.
And I think he has like 2 years of eligibility.
I mean, what?
Because he's just been hurt his entire career.
This is the same guy that started at Notre Dame. Am I correct? Like a million moons ago, under Mike Bray's like
same class as like Nate Lazuski and Dane Goodwin. Like those guys just finished their 5th year, and he's still back with a couple of years eligibility. Yeah,
Lemoyne's a dark horse for sure for me.
That's it, Matthew.
Chicago State's in this league. I like them as their own entity.
Maybe they'll have the big travel advantage.
We like them in a conference.
It's just flying to Chicago, but
they're gonna be bad.
Chicago State could be feisty. If Gillian was back, I'd be a lot more excited about picking them higher up.
They are by no means talent. Like their talent level is probably on par with the rest of the league, frankly. So we'll see.
I got one review.
Reviews.
I got one review for you.
Review.
Just one.
Thank you. Review.
The review is from
5-star.
RWDM20. He says, great knowledgeable show. Not a lot of fluff. Very listenable. No morning sports radio, cheesy jokes, or fake hot takes. Keep it up, boys. Fantastic.
I think I had like two
Yes.
very cheesy jokes in this episode. I apologize, but I have to slip them in.
Yes.
I'll cut those out, Jim.
Thank
I'll
you.
patch it over.
All right, close this up, Matthew.
Yeah, we're closing up shop today. That's the mid-major menagerie. Thank you for joining us. Come back, I believe, same day next week, Thursday, timing TBD, in which we will be talking about
Ooh,
cool
should we
stuff.
go the West Coast or the East Coast of our high major group?
Ooh, so be a bi-coastal elitist show. We'll get all the
TBD.
WCC versus
TBD. We'll tease it. Yep.
All right, there it is. Teased. Come back and join us. Thank you for joining us this